Hi friends, it's Sandy with Trinity Stamps, and it is game on today. I am so excited to share this card with you today because these machines just give me so many fun memories of when my boys were just little guys. We couldn't pass one of these up without at least giving it a try. Make sure you see all the videos in this hop by clicking the playlist, and that is linked down below. Also, to celebrate the launch of this new release, Trinity Stamps is giving away a $25 shopping spree to their shop. To enter, make sure you fill out the brief form below. There's also a link for that. Deadline to enter is April 9th. The winners are going to be announced on the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel in a post, on Instagram, and on the Facebook group on or around the 10th of April. Okay, let's get started. To start this card, I'm going to create my box using the A2 window box card die set. I'm going to cut out 2 pieces of cardstock. The first piece, I will tape the dies that cut out the windows to the larger die. Then I will use the large die again on my second piece. However, I will remove the center window die so that the piece, when cut out, will only have one side window. It's hard to see in the video, but the die leaves score lines for you to see where you need to make the folds to create the box. I find it easiest if I gently fold towards me along that line first to break up the fibers in the paper, and then turn it over to make the permanent fold. Once I have those folded, I will use my bone folder to give them a nice crisp fold. I am folding the box corners and the tabs that connect the 2 pieces together. Next, I apply a very skinny double-sided tape. It's just a little bit thinner than 1/8 of an inch to the 2 long tab pieces and along the left and right side of the window openings. I apply a wider tape, which is just about 1/4 of an inch, above and below the window openings, and I do that just to make sure that the acetate is held a little bit more securely than with just that skinny little tape. I have cut 2 pieces of acetate to 1 7/8 inches by 3 1/2 inches for the 2 skinny windows on the side. The center window is cut at 3 inches by 3 1/2 inches. Once I peel off the protective tape from around the windows, I place the acetate over the openings. It is very important that you make sure that the acetate is within the scored lines so that they don't impede when you fold the card. I have found that I usually have to do a little bit of trimming on those 2 little side windows. The A2 window box die has another piece that cuts out a tab that fits inside the box. That is the piece that holds the other little elements inside the box to give it that 3D look. Cut 2 of those and then fold them on the scored lines. Next, I'm going to apply a double-sided adhesive tape to the tabs. I generally prefer to use liquid glue for most of my card making. However, this is one of the times where it makes things so much easier by using the tape. I'm going to peel off the tape on one side of that tab, and I'm going to adhere it to the card pieces. So I'm going to line that up at the very top of that card and put the edge of that tab right along the fold line. I want to make sure I'm not covering the fold line because then your card is not going to fold. I'll do that at the top of the card and down below, right even with the bottom of the window opening. For the background inside the machine, I cut a piece of white cardstock at 3 inches by 3.5. And then to help create my farm scene, I am using a stamp from the We've Come for Cake stamp set. And I'm just going to try to figure out where it's going to fit on that background to make sure it looks right through the front window. I'm going to use my Misty to help me get that lined up just where I need it to be. I'll go ahead and stamp that with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And then I am going to use just a variety of Copic markers to color in this background. That's all going to be done off camera so this video doesn't run on too long. Background colored, I'm going to go ahead and just use some liquid glue to adhere that to the background of that die piece, making sure that I am butting it up to the very top of that piece and that I'm not extending over the fold line or out past that right side edge. In consideration of time for this video, I have used the Gashapon machine die to cut out all the pieces that were going to decorate the box. When I'm working with such small pieces, I like to apply double-sided adhesive to the back of my cardstock. This makes it so much easier to place the pieces on the card without getting glue all over. Another thing I like to do is place those pieces on a piece of heat-resistant Teflon once I remove the protective back. This is especially helpful when you're using the same die a number of times to cut out different colors of cardstock. I'm going to start with the window trim first. I cut the larger frame for the front window using the Gashapon machine die set. The thinner frames have been cut using the window dies from the A2 window box die set. Next, I want to get the game top placed to make sure that I have enough room to decorate the bottom of my machine. It also helps me kind of figure out where I want to place those pieces. I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of liquid glue on that. That also helps me. It creates just a little bit of a barrier so that I can wiggle that piece around before I get it permanently adhered to that cardstock. I cut my white picket fence using the Outdoor Doors Borders and Scene Builders Slimline die set. In order to cut down on creating bulk with too many layers of cardstock, I used the prize door and the coin slot die to cut off some of those pickets. As you can see, now I can just slide those pieces in the picket openings and they don't lay on top. It's a little thing, but I like the way it looks. I'm going to trim both ends of the fence so it fits nicely on the bottom of my card. Next, I'll remove the protective tape and add a little bit of glue to the back of the fence and place it on the card. Again, using the liquid glue gives me a little bit of wiggle room as to where I want to get that piece put on the card. The wording on the prize door was created using the 8-bit birthday stamp set and the coordinating die set. I heat embossed the word push on black cardstock using white embossing powder. The 25-cent is also part of that 8-bit birthday stamp set. I am going to carefully stamp the lower right corner of the coin slot piece. I love the little 25-cent detail on this card. I think it's so subtle, but it adds so much to it. For the joystick, I cut the outline out of black cardstock and then used the other joystick die to cut out the little individual joystick pieces. This I used on red and yellow cardstock. I like using different colors when I have the opportunity because it really adds a little bit of whimsy to the card. Again, I'm going to use the 8-bit birthday stamp set to stamp the instructions on that game panel. Again, it's all those little details that make these cards so unique and special. Now I'm going to build that little button. It is the same die that cuts out those three pieces. So I'm going to cut it first with black cardstock, and that largest piece is the base of the button. And then I'm going to cut it out of red cardstock, and I'm going to layer those two little red pieces on top of that black button, just leaving a little bit of the black area showing. Next, I'm going to put another piece of picket fencing along that side panel. And again, I'm just trimming it so that it's not going to impede the fold of that project, but it's not going to hang off that edge either. So it just is a little bit of finessing, just trying to trim it just so that it fits on there nicely. And again, I'm going to use the white glue to give me a little bit of wiggle room and time to get that placed just exactly where I want it. Now I'm going to build my little awning or decoration at the top of the machine. As you can see, I have used several different colored cardstocks. This helps create dimension and detail. That is one of the things I really like about these die sets is even though there's so many pieces, you almost need all of them to get to that detail that makes it look more real. Now to finish up this box, all I have left, or at least the outside of the box, all I have left to do is apply that awning to the very top of my machine. My little friends are from the new Stuffy Stamp Set and Coordinating Die. Since this is a little Gashapon that has a farm theme going, I only stamped out the cow, pig, sheep, and little chicken. I think I stamped out maybe 4 of each one of them and colored them in with Copic markers. I'm going to take a few of them and kind of clump them together. These are going to be the ones that go inside to the right of the machine. I'm going to pile those up and get them glued together. To help create a little bit of depth, I glued a few of my little friends so that they were up against the window of the machine. I am careful to only glue them where the glue isn't going to show or squish up onto that acetate, because then it looks kind of messy and it's almost impossible to clean off. Next, I'm going to glue my little stack of stuffies on the inside bottom tab, and I'm going to kind of concentrate them over to that right hand side. But I don't want to get all crazy with getting those placed so that when the card folds that they don't allow it to fold, if that makes any sense at all. You have to leave them far enough over to the left so that they move freely within that opening. Once I got those placed, I decided to add a few more of my little friends to that bottom tab just to cover up that red cardstock a little bit and to give it a little bit more dimension. Once I have the claw attached to my cow, I decided that it needed to be fortified a little bit. I just didn't want it hanging from that little piece of cardstock that's supposed to be like the wire or the tube. And it just felt like it wasn't going to hold up very well to the card being open and shut. So I took a very thin piece of acetate, and I glued it so that it was behind the cow and came up behind the claw piece, and I attached it to that top tab, giving it just a little bit more strength and durability. Now that I have something to hang on to and work with, I'm able to take that piece of acetate and kind of move it up and down and determine where I want that cow to rest in that machine. In retrospect, I wish I would have moved it a little bit further to the right, but he ended up a little bit to the left, and it's okay. Now I'm going to finish up creating this box. So I'm going to take that background piece that's got all my friends on it along with the little tab, and I'm going to peel off that protective tape on that tab. I will run a very thin line of glue along that tab, and then I'm going to take the piece with the big center window and I'm going to lay that on top of my other piece. I want to make sure as I'm doing this that I'm lining it up top and bottom and that I'm not crossing over that fold line. If I do that, then I'm going to have some cardstock peeking off of that corner and it's going to look weird and feel weird and not be exactly how I want it. So I'm just being very, very careful to make sure that I'm placing that right next to the fold line. I will do the same thing on the other side of my card. I'm just going to peel off that tape again, put in a fine bead of glue, and then I'm going to close up my card, making sure my little tab pieces are out of the way, and give that a good press and hold it there until it's adhered. Now we have to attach those two little tab pieces on the inside of the card. So I'm going to use my pokey tool. I'm going to pull off that protective tape. I'm going to put a little spot of glue on that tab and then press it up against the side of the box. This was the first card I made, and this is the more difficult way of doing it. There is an easier way, and I will do another video showing that, but this is kind of what we're working with today. So I'll go ahead and I will do that on the top. On the bottom, I will do the same thing, although it's a lot more difficult because I have to reach up inside that box. So I'm going to reach up there with my pokey tool, peel off that protective tape, and then press that tab up against the side of the box. There's no way you're going to get liquid glue on that piece, so you're just going to have to use your fingers, reach up in there and press it so that it holds in place. Since the box is the actual card, I needed to put a sentiment on it somehow. So I decided the back was just perfect because it was a blank slate. I cut a piece of white cardstock, 2 3/4 by 5 1/4, and stamped a sentiment on it. I used a sentiment from the Stuffy stamp set. I also had a few friends left over, so I added them to the sides and the bottom of the box, just giving it a little bit more decoration. And that pretty much does it for this card. I don't know what else to say other than this card is just the bomb. It's got color, it's got cuteness, it's interactive. It is just, oh, I just love it so much. All right. Make sure you see all the videos in this hop by clicking the playlist down below. And if you would like to try to win the $25 shopping spree to the Trinity shop, make sure you fill out the brief form, and that link is also down below. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I hope you have a great one. Bye-bye.